and welcome to another brand new episode here on Sunnyside of Farms. So what are we up to today? Well, today we've got some spraying to do, so we've moved on a little bit now from where we were at last time, which if you remember in the last episode we drilled the fields that we just bought with the money from the stone. And right, the best way to do this is to go down there and then come this way. Yeah, with the money that we bought from with the stone, so we bought some fields. The one field that I forgot to do in that episode was the field directly sort of just the other side of the hedge, the way we're facing now. See that hedge? The other side of that hedge, there's a field there. I forgot to drill that one. I sort of remembered once I'd got the video made and uploaded to YouTube. I then was kind of back in here doing a few little bits and pieces and doing a little bit more of the pig yard and stuff like that, and then it suddenly occurred to me, hang on a minute, I didn't drill that I didn't drill that other field, so hastily went back and did it. So it is drilled, but we just didn't see it on camera, which is unfortunate. But as I say, it has been drilled. It's been drilled with corn, again to sort of kind of help with the pigs. Once we get them, which isn't going to be long, to be fair. Isn't going to be long at all, really. Hopefully, I would say definitely not this episode, because I still haven't quite got down there finished yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end up doing a big reveal, and when you come back in, when you next see it, all the factory will be built and the pigs will be in, and then we'll start. So I'm aiming to get the pigs in. Oh no, the pigs might not be in actually, because I'm aiming to put the pigs in after we've harvested, because after we've harvested we'll have straw. If we've got straw we can obviously put it into the pigs, but yeah, so just another couple of months to go, really. I've just been round and checked all the animals, and the sheep are still, they really don't eat very much, because their trough's still pretty much full. The water's still pretty good, which is fantastic, and really does help. So yeah, as I say, we're looking good. We are looking good with the sprayer going around these headlands. Look, you can see where the old headlands for the old 24 metre sprayer used to be. This is a 28 metre sprayer, this one. As I say, the equipment on here is based loosely on the first farm that I worked on. As I've said many times before, this sprayer was it was in its last year when I joined, because soon after I took over the sprayer and after I passed my PA1 and PA2 spraying, I then did PA3, 4, and then there was another one that I did as well. I can't remember the name of that one, but I ended up doing and passing every spray course there was, and I also ended up as well getting my certification for pest control. So yeah, legally I was allowed to do that as well. So yeah, that sort of side of the farm, because there's only me and John, and sort of John was what we called the head tractor driver. So he was the one that did the combining, the drilling, all these things when he could be bothered, of course. If he didn't rock up for work, then I used to say to him, it'd be really handy if you trained me to do these jobs as well. And he used to look at me and go, no, they're my bloody jobs. And I said, yeah, but I said, then you like bugger off on holiday and we're knackered then. I said, like, at least I could fill in. And oh no, you don't drive my combine, you don't drive my tractors. But as I sort of said before, we were drilling beans one spring, and he didn't show up. He decided that he was going to Portugal for 2 weeks, and he didn't show up. And Anthony, kind of said to me, he said, I don't know what we're going to do. And I said, I do. And he said, what's that? I said, well, I could drill that field, all those fields, because there's about 4 altogether. And he sort of looked at me and he goes, "You've never done it before." And I said, no, I said, but what John doesn't realise is, that I've been riding around in the cab with him, I said, and taking absolute note of everything that he does. I said, I could set that up, I said, and I could drill those fields. And he was like, well, I don't know. And I said, like, honestly, I could. I said, like, I said, if, he said, yeah, but if you get it wrong, he said, then we've lost out on money. I said, well, to be fair, you're losing out on money anyway, because he ain't here to drill them. And then he was like, yeah, but I was going to get a contractor in. I said, why pay a contractor when you've got a bloody worker here that can do it? So he was like, okay. He goes, oh, yeah, all right then. He said, I'll let you have a go. So I was like, oh, fair enough. So anyway, I ended up drilling them that year myself, and because the farm didn't have GPS or anything. But the one sort of skill that, one natural talent that I seem to have in life is that I can drive a tractor. Not so much on farming sim, because depth perception and all that, and sort of I can't do it quite as well. I mean, I can do it fairly well. I mean, like, if you've ever seen the 1950s series, I always plough those fields in sort of pretty much dead straight lines. But on the flip side to that, if anyone's ever seen my drilling with that GPS on Farming Sim 22, especially on this save, excuse me, where we're doing tram lines, it leaves a lot to be desired. But in real life, I can drive a tractor from one end of the field to the other in a straight line, and that was the one thing that kind of got commented on about my beans, was that the boss man said, and to be fair, John said as well, he said, blimey, he said, the tram lines are a straight line. It's like, yeah, so that's the idea, isn't it? And he goes, I like to put a little bit of a curve in me. He said, like, just sort of changes it up a bit, doesn't it? And I said, well, each to their own, that's all I can say. I said, but yeah, I like things to look proper. And like I've said before, I was sort of taught by probably, one of the best tractor drivers that I know. People are going to go, well, you're going to say that he's your uncle, but honestly, like, to plant fields and fields and fields of potatoes and all the other stuff in dead straight rows with no GPS, field after field after field, hour after hour. People that are not really involved in farming don't understand the concentration that takes, to be able to do that. As I say, when I worked for a little while. I still work for the second farm, but I went on another farm for a little while. So their tractor driver who planted potatoes had I can't remember I think he'd had a mental breakdown, and he was off work, and they drafted me in. So I used to plant. I was one of the potato planters on farm 2 that I worked on. On the second farm that I worked on, and they sort of went to the farm and said, have you got a tatty planter driver spare? And they said, well, we have, as it happens. I went to that farm, and again, they didn't have GPS. Now, the one thing that I kind of found was, and this is why I say it takes an extraordinary amount of concentration. Anything pre sort of 4 or 5 o'clock was pretty dead straight. Anything up to about 8 o'clock after that time, there were, I weren't getting in quite square at the ends, and I wasn't, quite, do you know what I mean? Like, just, you could tell. And the person that I had gone to work for obviously knew my uncle, and he said, which was very nice of him. He said, you're very good. He said, like, he said he's obviously taught you very well. but he said, however, you could do it all day, every day. And so, as I say, towards the end of the day, when I was starting to get tired, it was much harder to do. But anyway, I'm going to crack on and get these done, and by the end of the episode, we hopefully would have bought a couple of new bits of kit. As you can see, I've bought some, I've not bought some stone, I've sold some stone, and we've got some more money now, which is really, really good. Ray watched my video of me spraying the other fields the other day, and the first thing he did was ring me up, and he said, "Now then," he said, "I'm not very happy with you." I said, "Why? What have I done?" And he said, "Since when have I ever taught you to fold the sprayer up while you're moving?" It's like, you haven't. "Well, why are you doing it in your game then?" I said, "Because it's a game." I said, "It's fine, it won't bend." And he's going, "That's not the point." He said, "You should be doing it realistically." He said, "I don't want to see you do it no more." So I must try and remember to stop and fold the booms in. Otherwise I get told off. But yeah, so as I say, we're going to buy a little bit of kit, and then we'll fast forward, and then we'll see when. Nah, do you know what? Because I've literally only really got spraying to do, and I've still got the chicken bit to do, and I have had a couple of people just sort of say, don't do too much of the digging side of things, because it wasn't that good on video, which is fair enough, because it wasn't. I was going to go down there and do a bit more, but we'll do a chatty video, and then we'll get the spraying done, and then in the next episode we'll do a proper episode, like the sort of new way that I'm doing farming sim videos from now on, and then we'll do that. We'll start that from that episode, because I sort of, in the 1950s series, I'd said that I'd found a new website where I could get royalty-free music from, and this week's second 1950s farm video, I got a message from YouTube saying that they'd found a copyrighted song in my video. Whilst it didn't impact on me, the video going live and people being able to watch it, I couldn't monetize the video, which is fine, because obviously I'm not monetized, so it doesn't make no difference to me, so that was fine. But I don't want that sort of thing happening on my channel, sort of thing. I want to keep myself proper and legit, and of course that, hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be a day when I will be monetized, and obviously I don't want that to sort of be happening and impact my channel. So I might have to go back to the drawing board on that one, because the one thing with using the same songs over and over from YouTube Studio was I couldn't get a copyright strike, or I haven't got a copyright strike this time, to be fair. I just can't monetize, and I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. So yeah, so it's actually not a bad thing that I've just sort of decided on the fly to do a chatty video, because yesterday, was it? Yeah, yesterday, I got invited. So the farm that I'm going to on June 25th, I think it is, that I've been invited to for the day. And like I say, there's quite a few people that have been invited, so I'm not the only one. And then in the afternoon, it's open to the general public, but you do need to buy a ticket. So if you would like to go, it's PX Farms, and then as I say, you have to go onto the website, then their website, and buy a ticket to the afternoon, because the morning invite one has been sold out. That you can no longer get tickets for that. And as I say, I was lucky enough to get tickets for it, and or get a ticket for it. Anyway, I got invited up yesterday, and I went on. It was in Lincolnshire, and obviously that's where I'm from. And I went up to have a look at them spraying, and we was driving between fields. Well, we was actually driving back to the base in Lincolnshire to refill the sprayer. The sprayer driver and myself just having a ride, and something that happened to the driver yesterday happened to me. Funny enough, it happened to me not long after I'd started on the first farm, and I think it was probably one of the reasons why they ended up changing over to a self-propelled sprayer. So I'll tell you about my incident rather than their incident, because that's not really for me to talk about. But this, as I say, and in all the years that I've been involved in farming, to have it happen twice is, to have it happen once is, very rare, but it happened twice. So way back in the day when I first started on the first farm, was busy spraying. It was spraying season. We were putting. It was roughly around this time of year, so we were putting sort of T1s, T2s on, sort of stuff like that. And I was sort of back and forth, and all over the place. And as I say, they had about 1,100 acres altogether. And as I say, back and forth, from the farm to the fields, back to the farm, fill up fields, and I was doing this sort of day after day after day for a good few weeks. And we also had not far from where we were based, we had a potato farmer, but they hired in land, and they grew their potatoes. They grew several thousand acres of potatoes, and they had said to the boss man, they said, like, would you mind spraying the potatoes for us? So that added more sort of work to my already sort of fairly busy workload with wheats and barleys and peas and everything else that we were growing. Anyway, one day I was coming down the main road through Sutton St James, and it didn't seem odd at the time, but now when I sort of think back, one thing I was terrible for was remembering to fit the safety chain. So in case the sprayer came off the drawbar when I was driving, and I kind of looked at how it was on, and I was thinking, that's nigh on impossible for that to come off there. And so sometimes I just absolutely just wouldn't, just wouldn't put the chain over. And then that particular day, I'd sort of got up that morning, and I'd gone into work and what have you, and the boss man said, you need to put a sprayer on today. We've got quite a bit of spraying to do this week. So I was like, right, fair enough. So took the tractor. This case, we had a 1455 XL. Took this tractor. Went and put the Bertoid sprayer on, and unusually for me, I shouldn't say this, and this is why. It's very, very important for anyone out there listening that works on a farm or works in and around farm that sometimes thinks, it'll be all right. Don't never work on the assumption it will be alright. But this particular day, I put the sprayer on, and I've also put the chain on, and then there's a safety, like there's a like a brake cable that goes onto the sprayer. So should the sprayer break free from the tractor, it pulls the wire, which then engages the brakes, and then obviously stops the sprayer from going too far. But the safety wire stops the even though the sprayer has now come off the tractor, it stops it from going left or right. It keeps it behind the tractor, so it doesn't plough into a car. And on this particular day, now I always used to put the brake line on, the brake cable on, so that if it did come off, the brake would be engaged. But I never used to put the chain on just because I think I was just so naive to think it'll never happen. And you really mustn't never ever do that. And this particular day, as I was going through the village of St James, and I was hammering through, and I say hammering through as much as you can on a tractor like this. Yeah, top speed's about 25 miles an hour. But I was going through the village, I was going really, really quick, and all of a sudden, I heard this ding, and then this huge noise behind me, and I turned round, and the sprayer is now probably 3 or 4 feet further back from my tractor, being dragged down the road, and the drawbar is like literally sort of burying into the road, then bouncing up, and then burying into the road, and then bouncing up, and I'm sort of braking the tractor as hard as I can, and there's cars going by me, there's lorries going by me, and I'm thinking, please don't brake, please don't brake, please don't go off to the to the right, as I was sort of driving, because obviously that would have gone obviously straight into the oncoming traffic. And anyway, luckily it didn't, because as I say, for whatever reason that day, I had put the safety chain on around the I forget where it fits to, like I say, I was just sat there, and I was in complete shock. I just, like, for for probably a minute or so, I just couldn't move. I was like paralysed with sort of shock, fear, fright, because I thought, the first thing I thought was, well, I'm getting fired. I'm getting sacked, because clearly I haven't done something right, and I haven't put that on properly, and that's happened, and there was, like I say, quite bad damage to the road, and sort of what have you. And anyway, I've called the boss man, got out, made sure that no one was injured, because there was stone and tar and everything flying everywhere. It was smacking the back, the back window of the tractor, the cab, and it was just flying off in all directions. And anyway, I called the boss man, and he sort of immediately came down, and oh dear, I got this tram line a little bit too far away, didn't I? I didn't do this one very well. He's come down, and I was physically, shaking. I was like, really shaking, as if I'd just seen, I don't know, a ghost or whatever. But I was shaking really, really badly, and the lady from the post office came out, and she's like, because like everyone knows everyone in the village, and she said to the boss man, what's going on? And he's going, can you do me a favour? So she was like, yeah, what's that? He said, can you take James in there? He said, and get him a cup of tea. He said, I think it shook him up a little bit, and he said, while I have a look at this and sort of assess what's happened, sort of thing. And anyway, I went in with the post lady, and I had a cup of tea, and she goes, what happened, love? And I said, I don't know. I said, I was just driving, and then I was just ploughing up road. I said, I don't really know what happened. Anyway, the boss man came back in, and he goes, you settled? And I said, no, not really. He said, yeah. He said it's very frightening. He said, but he said you did everything that we taught you to do. You put your chain on, you put your brake on. He said, like, you know, he said so. He said, you know, he said you did everything right. He said so. He said that, you know, there's no blame to you. You know, he said everything that you were supposed to have done, you did do. He said because it's still attached to the tractor. So I was like, oh, okay, because when the tractor stopped and then the sprayer was sort of still going. I mean, it seemed to take forever. The whole thing seemed to take for absolute ever. Like from the hearing the ding and then the you know, and stone flying everywhere and tar flying everywhere, and you know, me trying to brake the tractor and you know, to stop the tractor. And then because what happened was the tractor stopped a lot quicker than what the sprayer did, because the sprayer was full. You know, the sprayer had, you know, sort of I think it was about 2,100 litres of you know, water and chemical in it. You know, well, water in it, because obviously the chemical was mixed in, and of course the sprayer has then gone straight underneath the tractor, and I didn't realise at the time, but it lifted only just slightly. I mean, you know, you couldn't have got your hand under there, but it lifted the back wheels off the road. And yeah, so I sort of then gone out and had a look, and anyway, the you know, the police got called, and the tractor and you know, and the sprayer and everything. And what had happened was that the drawbar was like a sort of trailer hook, and then for the sprayer it went on its own type of trailer hook, so it wasn't just the one that come with the tractor for the trailers. It had a special, you had to change the tractor one for the sprayer one, basically. And yeah, it's just a pin. Anyone that's ever done it before, when you want to take the drawbars out, it's just a pin, a couple of pins underneath. You just knock them out, pull the drawbar out, push the new one in, push the pins back in, and you know, job done. And because what had happened was that the thumb that goes over the hook and holds the hook down, so that the hook can't really, the ring on the sprayer can't keep going up and down the hook, because the thumb on it sort of fits over the hook, so that there's no play for the sprayer. You know, the sprayer can't keep bouncing up and down as it's going down the road. And I did all that with my hands, by the way, and because you can all see that, can't you? So if you're wondering why the tractor stopped while I was doing it, it's because I was sort of showing you all with my hands, and I'm, you know, just started moving the tractor again. My head's gone, they can't see you. It's just like, oh yeah, of course. But yeah, so what had happened was the thumb itself had worn over the years of, I suppose, being bashed into by the sprayer, and the spring on the back that releases the hook. So there's a trigger on the spring, and you push it down, that lifts the spring up, which then in turn means you can lift the thumb up. And then once you get the thumb in place, you let the spring go again, and then a little bar goes underneath the thumb, and then it won't drop down. And as I say, that had worn, the spring had gone, and because what had happened was the spring had jumped up, which released the thumb from the tractor. As it's gone over, the little bar has sort of kind of gone across, but not fully. It hadn't gone fully over. I'd stopped again because I was showing you with my hands. I don't know why I keep doing that. Just drive the bloody tractor, James. And yeah, so it's as I say, completely you know, sort of malfunctioned. Of course, what had happened was the next bump I hit just chucked the sprayer off the hook, and yeah, I ended up dragging it through the village. Not for very far. I mean, like I say, it seemed like it went on for ages and ages and ages, but in theory I hadn't gone that far at all. You know, I hadn't really travelled very far at all. You know, because you know, in my head, I'd kind of rip the road up for like half a mile. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but in theory, it was, you know, probably no more than about 100 yards or so. Or I'm not very good with measurements and stuff, as anyone who knows me knows. But I hadn't done, you know, very much. I'd sort of ripped up from basically sort of here to about here somewhere. You know, again, that might either be a bit, well, no, probably about here. So it's sort of, yeah, and then what had happened was, I don't know whether this is simulated on here. So let's get down. Right, so on the game here, look, you can see that that's over the hook. Now that's obviously not very, you know, but it's never going to come off in game unless I press the Q button, is it? But if I get my mouse up, can I get that up? Ah, right, here we go. Alright, so you've got the hook that goes on there. So the hook then comes through, sitting on this part of the tractor here, just below it would be a lot lower down. It wouldn't be as close to the PTO as that, but it would be a lot lower down. Then sitting on there somewhere would be the mountings for the thumb. It was, I don't know why we called it the thumb. I think we called it the thumb because we always said the ring was under the thumb. I think that was literally the only reason. I don't think thumb was its technical term, but I think that's why we ended up calling it the thumb, or why the farm called it the thumb. So it would sit there, and then what would happen was it would go basically and fit over that, so that the sprayer ring, which is way too big, it's not that big, but it would then go over that, and then what had happened was obviously the sprayer then couldn't go up and down couldn't go up and down the hook, and because it can go up and down, so basically, you know, the thumb was holding it down with the spring, and as I say, it was, you know, it was tough to move, but obviously over the years it had sort of, you know, worn and, you know, sort of disintegrated a little bit or whatever, and because it jumped up, and that meant that when I hit the bump, the sprayer, then the ring of the toe eye of the sprayer was able to jump off the hook and then obviously fall to the ground, and then so I don't know whether, again, it's perhaps not, no, it's not. So you'd have like a bit like on a trailer. I can't get out. So a bit like on some of the modded trailers in game, you'd have like a bar that comes up from sort of there somewhere-ish, and it would come up and then sort of curve round, and then you'd fit your brakes to it, you'd fit, you know, your hydraulic pipes to it, obviously for the booms and stuff like that, but it's obviously not modelled here. And then at where the brake goes, which I don't know whether you're going to be able to see it on here, and plus I've got to remember, I don't think that's modded quite like the real one, because down the side here somewhere, it was down here somewhere, well, actually that might be it. No, I don't think it is. It could be, I don't know, it's a bit hard to tell, to be fair. But yeah, down the side there you'd have the brake cable, and that would go in there. So like I say, if that then if, you know, it came off, it would pull the brake, and then and also as well with the thumb on and the chain on the bottom, the chain around the hook was also connected to the brake as well, so I had like a 2-point connection, and if either one came off, it would immediately apply the brake so that you didn't, you know, you couldn't lose the sprayer sort of thing. But yeah, it's not the same model Bertoid sprayer that we had either. But yeah, so I'd say that was what had happened. So I urge everyone out there that, you know, maybe listens to my channel and watches my videos, you know, if there's a safety feature on the tractor or the implement that you're using, then use it, because had I have not, you know, the boss man did eventually say to me, you know, it wasn't your fault, you know, we should have checked that, we should have been on top of that, what have you. He said, however, had you have not used the chain and the brake, not put it in, I would have sacked you. He said, because you could have killed someone, or at the very least caused them, very bad injuries. He said, but the fact that you'd put all the safety things on meant that, yeah, the sprayer went underneath the tractor and it bent quite a bit underneath the tractor as well. He said, but as far as I'm concerned, the important thing was you had all the safety things on, and so therefore, no fault to you. You did everything right. You did everything as you should have done. Sort of put it down to experience. Learn from it, and then just forget about it. He said, like, in terms of, don't dwell on it, and he said, and make yourself upset or whatever. He said it's not worth it. But yeah, as I say, and the thing was, before that day, many a time I hadn't bothered. I just thought, I'll be all right. I'm only going down the road. But that day, all my lucky stars aligned, and I put it on. And with putting it on, I was able to avert disaster. But yeah, so anyway, as I say, we've got one job left to do now in this episode. We've got a few little bits to purchase. Now, I told you before that this tractor, the dealership had it in stock, and we borrowed it to try it. It's only got 8% off, but that's fine, and also the power hour as well, which is also pretty good, because that was going to be a good way for us to pull our land down. So we're going to buy this. We're going to have a front hitch, and then we are going to make that a little bit more, so 270 horsepower. I want it on wide tyres because it's going to do, eventually it's going to do rolling and powering and stuff like that. So yeah, you can have it on twin wheels. Not something around where I live that's hugely common. A couple of times we ran tractors on twin wheels, but not very often. Tended to be more flotation tyres than twin wheels. Obviously we want some fenders on there. We want the back fenders on. Passenger seat yet, Starfire yet, GPS yet. Don't do number plates. Don't do number plates, so we'll take that off. So we'll buy that. That's 106,000, and then we've got one more. And what we might do as well is, I don't know for sure yet, but we might buy a nice trailer to go for that. And the other thing I want to do was, I want to buy the new harvester. So I don't know whether to buy this one or this one. So we'll have a look, or that one even. Right, with that one, the header is 7.6 meters. Alright, so in terms of header, they're no different. Okay, so all of them are going to come with the same header. That's 10,000 litres. Oh, didn't mean to do that. That's 10,000 litres. That is 12, and that is 8. So really, that one is the better one, really, isn't it? It's a little bit, well, actually, it's less money. I don't know why that is, because that's a bigger combine. I mean, it's a nice combine. This is the one that we had on the farm. As I say, this is the one that we had on the farm, and I'm sure it was a 540. Yeah, it was a 540 that we had. We bought this combine right just before I left to go and work on farm 2. They bought this combine out of the money that they got from. They didn't sell the land, but they leased the land to the water board, and the water board built a lagoon on the land, which essentially is one massive place where all of the village's sewage goes now, and it goes into one massive like swimming pool, and then it gets filtered and treated, and then as pure fresh water gets sort of comes out of all the sewage and the sludge and everything, it then goes into a massive freshwater like type swimming pool. They're called lagoons, and when the lagoon was first built on the farm and it was up and running, the man from the water board from I'm sure it was Anglian Water, uh, was showing us around, and because there's like a big filtration system in between the two tanks that the water passes through, and then, as I say, once fresh water is there, and it gets tested every few seconds to make sure that it is fresh water. Well, not only to make sure it is fresh water, but to also make sure that it's drinkable. And the man that was showing us around, we were stood on this huge lagoon, and he had a glass in his hand. Well, he had up on the top there was like a shelf, and he had like sort of 3 or 4 glasses up there, and he took a glass and says, "Who wants a drink?" And I just went, "Nah, thanks." And he goes, "It's perfectly safe." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll take your word for that." And he said, like, honestly, he said, like, it's what goes into your taps now. He said, like, we're feeding it back into. I said, "Yeah, I'll take your word for that, mate." I said, I'll take your word for that. I said, "You're all right." Anyway, the boss man and John and Ray were like, "Yeah, I'm with Jamie. We'll take your word for that." And the man gets his glass and he bends down and he puts it into the lagoon and gets it out and says, "Look at that, look, pure drinking water." He said, "Smell it." So I gave it a little smell, and to be fair, you could smell sewage, but don't forget there was a lagoon full of sewage next door. So, but it was supposed to not smell. So the way that it worked was that it basically where the sewage went in, this crust would form on top, and that would block the smell. Now, to be fair, only when you're right next to it you can smell it a tiny little bit, but if you're not next to it, like I mean, like right, virtually on top of it, you can't smell it. So it does, it does work. There is no smell to it. And anyway, as I say, we had a sort of a little whiff, and I think it was more the smell because we were so close to the other one, the sewage one, and the man just sort of necked this glass of water out of this, and I was sort of thinking, I said, if you don't come again, we know what happens to you, don't we? And he goes, I drink this water all the time. He said, like, it's well handy in the summer, when I'm going around all the lagoons, in sort of all of Lincolnshire and whatever. He said, like, if my water bottle runs out of water, I know I can just put it in there, and I've got a water bottle full of water again, and I'm like, yeah, that's for you, that is, mate. I'm not doing that. Of course, we don't have to have a John Deere. I mean, we could have a Claas. As I say, we could have a Claas. Probably not that Claas because that's a bit too much for us. But we could have something like that. So we could have up to 10,000 on that. What size header would that have? And that's a 10.8 header. Now that gets us done a little bit quicker. We could have a 660 Lexion. What? That's a 10.8 as well. But what does that hold? 12,000. Let's have a look at this. A Lexion 660. So, we've suddenly jumped up in price. Let's. Do we get? Yes, we do. Look at that. That is a beast. What I was kind of hoping for was wide tyres. Do we get wide tyres? Let's go this way instead. Yeah, wide tyres. Thing is, it is quite a bit more money. when we could go for that, and it holds 12, and it's like, you know, I don't think it's quite half price, but yeah, I think this is the combine that we're going to go for. Can we get this in tracks? Or with tracks, I should say. Yes, we can. But we will go for wide tyres. Yes, that looks mean. Right, we'll go for that one. We'll put a CB aerial on. Obviously, we want beacon lights. Obviously, we want the triangle. We want the green Star Wars design. Yeah, we'll have that. We'll get a few extras. Yeah, we'll have a real... no, we'll just have a static pitch. What are these options? Oh, I see. Yeah, we'll have that one. Yeah, we'll have GPS. No, we don't want the number plate. We're rebels. Right. Yep. So I think that's going to be the new combine. 207,000, a little bit cheaper than the Claas. There's a reason for that. In my humble opinion, having driven John Deere and Claas combines are a little bit more superior. And I forgot to do this. Right, so we're going to need that. So we'll buy that. Do we get a... No, we don't, so we have to go to the headers for that one. Which is here, and then down here. Does it all take the same header then? Yes, it does. Right, and then we go to combinations, and then we go to that, and then we'll colour it in green just so as it matches. And then we'll do the same with that one. The one that we got with the header had grey wheels, not yellow wheels, so we'll keep the grey wheels. Excellent. So there we go. Oh, hang on, we didn't buy the power harrow, did we? Our spending spree hadn't quite finished. Can we put a drill on that? We blooming well can. Yeah, we'll buy that with although I haven't said that, the crawler will pull the drill. Yeah, we'll buy it like that. There we go. So that's our big spending spree. And we've lowered the money a little bit. As I say, next time when we come in, I'll do a proper episode, the sort of new way that I'm sort of doing things. And we'll get all of the wheat harvested in the next episode. And then we'll get it baled. And then we can come and put our bales in the bale store. We'll get them baled, and then, as I say, we can then. It means our chickens will have more feed, because I think by the time harvest comes, I think they're going to be out of food again. So yeah. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching this episode. Hopefully you've made it to the end. I really am grateful that people do take time out of their day to watch my videos. If you've liked the video, why not give it a thumbs up? If you like the little story that was involved with the video, why not give that a thumbs up? And if you like me and the channel in general, and there's new things coming on the channel over the next few weeks, there's hopefully going to be at least one new series, but there may be two, but one we might keep dipping in and out of, but the other one will be a full proper series. And then, as I say, there are sort of new things, you know, that are coming. If you're interested in this sort of thing, why not go and join my Discord channel? The link is on the channel. So if you click on the picture, it then takes you to sort of the home page, and then it says like links, and then it's got the coffee link, and then it says one of the link. If you just press more, you'll see the link there. Go and join the Discord and say hi. The more people we can get in there, the better. I just apologise it's taken me so long to sort it out, but thanks to a very good pal on YouTube that I've met through YouTube, PA Plowboy. He sort of said, well, you can actually get it for your phone, you know, you don't have to have it on your computer. So it's on my phone, and so I'm able to pretty much, you know, able to respond and do all the things, and it hasn't taken up any more memory. So I say, if you're interested in that, why not drop over to there and say hi? That would be fantastic to see you. And on that, thanks ever so much for watching this episode. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye for now.